Just before we go, I just wanted to give a shout out to I think the only sort of Jewish adjacent team still competing in the NBA, and that is of course the New York Knicks. I mean, I don't have to say too much about New York sports teams having Jewish
I would say their
fans.
owner gets mistaken for a Jew fairly often. Like people think James Dolan is Jewish. That might be like because of anti-Semitic, conditioning.
Sure.
He does sort of fit a lot of the stereotypes we don't like when people call about us.
Right.
But he's not Jewish.
No. I mean, I think the owners of the Pacers actually are Jews, the Simon family. But regardless, I think the Knicks have the the title as the Jewish sports team right now, or because they've been capitalizing on their celebrity guests, and it has really just been like a who's who of Jewish New Yorkers. There was a great post. Timothée Chalamet, I think, is taking the cake. There's a great post of him the other day meeting Amari at the game now as a celebrity, paired with him at 14 years old getting his jersey signed by Amari when Amari was with the Knicks.
And he was a young Jewish fan.
Yeah, Jon Stewart's been there. Ben Stiller is, of course.
We've discussed on this podcast Ben Stiller's Twitter account, which is mostly idle thoughts about the Knicks, devoid of context. Just like, his only tweet for 3 days will be, gotta get the ball into OG's hands.
When we started this podcast in 2019, one of our first episodes was about the Raptors championship, and that Drake was the world's most famous sports fan at the time. There was a Jew who was the world's most famous sports fan, and I think Ben Stiller maybe hasn't quite grasped that title. Like
it could be Timothée Chalamet,
but it's pretty close. Like him and Timothée Chalamet, and some of the other people who are at these Knicks games. Ben Stiller's really like the Pope of Knicks Twitter at this point. Mix of metaphors here of saying he's a big Jew, but regardless, he is really doing it. I also saw Jon Stewart's been there.
Lenny Kravitz is there tonight.
Action Bronson, Lenny Kravitz,
Larry David,
and Susie Essman were both there today. So it is really a who's who of Jewish New York. Obviously there's a long history of Jewish basketball in New York City. And continuing on through the fandom on Celebrity Row. So if you watch a Knicks game and you see someone who looks like they should be on Curb Your Enthusiasm, they probably were.
They probably were. Yeah, it's true. It seems that now, Timothée Chalamet is like a superstar Knicks fan. Like he is approaching, at least trying to be approaching like Spike Lee levels of presence at Knicks games. We don't like to talk about it anymore, but like I assume Woody Allen is at the game. I assume.
Good question. I don't know. I mean, obviously the Knicks have done like cutting edge stuff of facial recognition to stop people they don't want coming to games. He's not getting a spot on the first row. No. But I would say we're not really seeing the Woodman too much in public these days, getting on in years and in accusations, and not really
piling up the problems.
But it's an interesting question. If anyone has an inside knowledge of how Woody Allen is currently watching the Knicks, please let us know. There's not that many people who are probably like at the 1973 finals, but I have a pretty good feeling
he was probably one of them. I'm sure he was there sitting courtside the last time the Knicks and the Pacers met in the conference finals when Timothée Chalamet was 3. It was a long time ago. Also, to answer your question from earlier, right now, Herb Simon, who does own the Indiana Pacers, is from Williamsburg, Brooklyn, grew up in the Bronx, went to City College of New York.
Wow.
He is a pretty serious Jewish guy.
So this is the real irony. The real Jewish New York basketball head that we should be talking about is Herb Simon.
Yeah, Herb Simon.
Who owns the Indiana Pacers. But no, we're just going to fawn over celebrities
true.
Supporting the Knicks. So
actually, what can you do? NBA Hall of Famer Herb Simon.
Oh, wow.
What's also interesting is that his nephew, David Simon, not the Wire David Simon, but David Simon, the property developer, owns the WNBA Indiana Fever.
Cool.
Who is doing great. Having Caitlin Clark on the roster and really bringing it high up. That side of the family has been, if you want sort of a Canadian connection, that side of the family, the Simon family, also produced the film Porky's, starring Kim Cattrall.
The most successful Canadian film of all time.
Yeah.
Anyways,
is it really?
As we've said before, or it was until it got displaced recently, but I can't remember what it was. But Porky's was for a long time like the technically most successful Canadian film of all time because it was produced by some Canadians, even though
and made in Canada. Thanks, Simon family.
Yeah. As we've said before, cheering for a team because the owner is Jewish is a weird reason to pick a team to cheer for, but maybe picking a team to cheer for because a bunch of celebrities who are Jews support them is just as weird.
Is a little,
Jalen Brunson's wife's Jewish, as we've pointed out every time we get a chance to. So cheer for them. Cheer for Jalen Brunson's Jewish kids. I guess that's the best we got in this NBA Finals.